Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Yankees, Padres, and Guardians all responded Wednesday night, setting up a massive slate of wild card baseball. Also, the Browns are turning to rookie quarterback Dillon Gabriel. And are the Florida Panthers primed for a three-peat in the NHL?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The New York Yankees broke through late against the Red Sox after a patient eighth inning. Locked On Yankees host Brian McKeon has more.
We can finally exhale. Yankees win. Yankees force a crucial Game 3 against the Red Sox in an absolutely dire, heart-wrenching type of game to watch. I'm Brian McKeon from Locked On Yankees. That was insane. That was awful in parts as a fan. I hate watching it as a fan. But as a baseball fan, you had to have loved it. This game had absolutely everything, including the Yankees proving their manager wrong. There were a couple mistakes made in this game, but they got the win. That's all that mattered. But they proved Ben Rice should have been in the lineup yesterday. Jazz Chisholm Jr. should have been in the lineup yesterday. This was the Jazz Chisholm Jr. game. I don't care what anybody says. The unbelievable play that he made at second base to keep the Red Sox from scoring that run. Run probably should have scored anyway, but kept them from scoring. And then the next inning, getting on base, drawing the walk, and then using his speed to score and barely getting the other mid in. That is what's so crucial about having a player like that on the field. He didn't even have a hit in this game. That's all that mattered, though, is the fact that he's able to get on base, create havoc, and score a run just like that. Such an important player, such an important game. Cam Schlittler will be on the mound tomorrow for Game 3. Yankees need to play really well, really smart baseball. They need to get to the Red Sox bullpen, which is probably likely, as they're starting a pitcher who's in his fourth start in his entire career. Crucial for the New York Yankees. Catch our reaction at 10 p.m. live everywhere you get your podcasts, and you can catch it afterwards in podcast form. Locked On Yankees. See you there.
The Guardians used a strong eighth of their own to even up things with the Tigers.
Let's all do some breathing exercises. After that ninth inning, in this game in general, if you were a Guardians fan, you probably felt the blood pressure. You probably had some alerts on your phone. I'm Jeff Ellis of Locked On Guardians, and let's talk about this game. You're going to get two nows, right? After a game like this, we need to talk about it. We need to enjoy it. It is a playoff win. Not counting 2020 because it's such a weird year. This is going to be the first time the AL Wildcard Series will have a series that goes to 3 games. I didn't know if that was going to happen for large parts of this game. Big home run by Valera to start the game. Kyle Manzardo just misses. And then Tanner was amazing. Chase Delauder did make his debut. He had a walk. He had one of the hardest hit balls of the game. He also had an error. Some of what you're going to get for a guy who hadn't played since middle of July. But I think it was a solid debut. But let's get into the main thing. Ninth inning, we had the heartburn, but Cade Smith got done. I do worry about his availability for tomorrow. And then the Tigers just couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. It's been their story all year. Big home run by Rocchio. Big home run by Naylor. And the Guardians win this one. What a win for the Cleveland Guardians.
The Padres absolutely shut down the Cubs to set up Game 3.
Well, that was a thud. Matt Cozy here from Locked On Cubs, walking back from Wrigley Field right now. Great experience building a runway to the game and the start of the game. But that was a disappointing effort for sure, and what's a short 3-game series. And I'm sure this is going to be reflected in Sam's full episode as well, but it's like, well, guys, it's one game. Well, it's a 3-game series, and so these games have more weight to them. Didn't think the Cubs competed real well. Obviously, only a handful of base runners will do that. The beauty is you have another chance tomorrow. Would love to know what Cubs fans are thinking right now. I'm not exiting with a great feeling, but there's a chance. There's a chance to advance on Thursday and redo what happened today. You know, for as exciting as Tuesday was, this was really a clunker in every fashion. And I got to answer back tomorrow.
And the Dodgers were, well, the only team to advance on Wednesday, taking down the Reds once more.
I told you on Tuesday's crossover edition of Locked On Dodgers with Locked On Reds that LA would sweep Cincinnati in the wild card, and that's literally what happened. The Dodgers won 8-4, and do you remember that gif of Grandpa Simpson just walking in and walking out? That was the Cincinnati Reds postseason appearance. 2 games, they're out. The Dodgers, they're into the NLDS against the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm mostly positive. The only thing that worries me, I don't want to say the bullpen, but it's just whoever's on the mound in the 8th inning. Yesterday, Tuesday, it was Alex Vesia and Edgardo Henriquez being very, very shaky. Today, it was Emmett Sheehan, who's been very solid for the Dodgers. So it's not about who's on the mound, it's about just the 8th inning being an issue for the Dodgers. Because Roki Sasaki, he came in the 9th. He was lights out, 2 strikeouts, 11 pitches, took care of the side. And now the Dodgers, they won. They're on against the Phillies. Do you think LA will be able to get through Philadelphia or not?
Stay up to date all year on Major League Baseball by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On MLB on your favorite podcast app. And of course, if you're a baseball fan, your favorite team has a Locked On show. Go follow them. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Browns made a quarterback change already. Before we get to that, the Ole Miss Rebels might be on a roll, but they've got a major decision to make at quarterback. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The Ole Miss Rebels topped the LSU Tigers last week and promptly rose to number 4 in the latest AP Top 25. The Rebels, despite being on fire, have a difficult decision to make at quarterback, though, moving forward.
They can do everything that they're supposed to do, and I fully expect them to do that, just to be clear. But when the transfer portal window opens on, was it January 4th or something like that, it's a 10-day window, there's a chance that Austin Simmons could get in it. That is the trade-off that you're making right now. And then this is the decision that Lane Kiffin has to make in his head. He makes $10 million a year. He is going to have to be the one that deals with all of this, not all of us. All we can just worry about the decision and how the outcome plays out. And there's lots of ways it could go wrong.
Elsewhere in college football news, the Big Ten might soon look more like Wall Street than just a football powerhouse. According to reports, the league is in talks on a private capital deal worth at least $2 billion, which would also extend its grant of rights through 2046. The idea is to form Big Ten Enterprises, a commercial arm to handle media rights, sponsorships, and other revenue streams, with an outside investor taking a small stake, but no control. Every school would get a 9-figure payout, though bigger brands like Ohio State and Michigan would likely see more. For now, the league is aiming for unanimous approval before a vote. If the deal goes through, it could reshape how conferences make money and keep the Big Ten firmly ahead in the proverbial financial arms race. And in a big move, Jaden Daniels is back for the Washington Commanders.
I said breaking news. It wasn't just Sam Cosmi in the 21-day window that is open for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels has officially been cleared to go against the Chargers on Sunday. We started the show anticipating that being the case. We now know it is official. Change the sign behind you. Is that a chalkboard, by the way? Is that actually a chalkboard? There you go. So we got a real chalkboard. The real chalkboard now gets the change behind your head. We are going to have Jaden Daniels out there against the Chargers, which obviously is a big, big boost for this team and this offense. Marcus Mariota is one of the better backups in the NFL, but the reality is JD5 is live as you hold up the sign on camera there. He's back, and the Commanders will at least have their franchise quarterback on Sunday in LA.
The Cleveland Browns are making a quarterback change, and no, not to the guy everyone's been talking about since the Browns drafted him a couple months, 6 months, I guess now ago. Spencer German was in the locker room in Cleveland for all of the shenanigans, for all the madness. Here are Locked On Browns host and Spencer. Dillon Gabriel in, Joe Flacco out. Why make this move now?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. Like going into the week, I kind of felt they'd wait another week, and mostly I felt that way just because the weirdness of the schedule, right? Like the Browns are going to London to play the Vikings for a rookie who's still kind of getting acclimated to like an NFL weekly schedule anyway, that they didn't think 4 weeks ago was quite ready to be the starter. I just thought you wouldn't put him in a situation where he's got to fly halfway across the world in a weird shortened sort of setup where you're trying to get adjusted to a time zone or a new time zone and put him out there and play. But I also, went into this week understanding like if they made the change, why that would be the case. And frankly, like the stats speak for themselves. The Browns offense is one of the worst in football. They're averaging 14 points per game, which is second to last in the league. And if the Titans had simply just scored a touchdown this past weekend, then they'd be dead last in the league. They are one of the worst teams in yards per game, net yards per attempt.
It's not
Flacco, great. Yeah, and Flacco obviously was putting up some of the worst quarterback numbers in the league. So like they're looking for some sort of spark, and this is one thing tangibly that Kevin Stefanski can change to try to do that. I think he continues to comment that it's about more than one person, which I think is his way of expressing that he knows it's not just the quarterback position that's been bad. The offensive line has been terrible. Receivers are dropping passes every week. So there's a lot more problems here. But I think his hope is let's put Dillon Gabriel out there. Let's see if it gives us a spark. If we can at least get the offense moving in a positive direction, maybe scoring some more. We have a chance to win games because our defense is so good. Yeah. And frankly, I think the biggest thing is Flacco was a statue in the pocket. He could not move. And we know Kevin Stefanski's offense does have some stuff in it where you boot guys out and you roll them out and try to throw some levels concepts down the field. We saw that a lot with Baker Mayfield back when Stefanski first got here. So the idea of doing some of that with, I think, Dillon Gabriel is also enticing because you weren't doing that with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, though, if the ball doesn't bounce off two receivers' hands against the Bengals and they win that game, if you're here making this decision now, right? Because you might have two wins instead of just the one. We don't have to talk about who the one win was against, Spencer. But so there was also this bizarre moment in the locker room, which you were a part of, where Shedeur Sanders is asked about all of this, and he gives answers, but is pantomiming the answers. What was that about? Like, walk us through what that was like to be there for.
Yeah, so I in the moment, we kind of just thought it was like a silly thing. Like, okay, like Shedeur's just messing around, which is why we kind of kept asking him questions because we thought like, oh, maybe he'll answer something. And I tried to kind of ask at the end, like just the most benign question around this whole thing, which is like, hey, Joe Flacco is going to be a backup, but like, what is he meant to you and Dillon in terms of like just getting you guys ready on a weekly basis and all those different things? And he didn't even answer that. So in the moment, it was very strange. We didn't really know why he was doing that. We sort of came to find out like it wasn't that he was told like, don't talk about anything, whatever. Because if he had, he probably would have just said, hey, I'm not talking. And honestly, that probably would have been the smart way to just go about it, is say, I'm opting out of talking. That's certainly within a player's right to do so. But I think as we found out later from some of the national conversations going on, it sounds like this was him sort of getting back at Rex Ryan, who made some comments at ESPN, who made some comments about him running his mouth too much as a third string quarterback and how he's not in the front row in meetings and all these different things. So I think this was him sort of saying, look, I'm not running my mouth. People are coming and asking me questions, but I'm just not going to say anything. I think in some respects, it probably backfired a little bit because I think most people are taking this to just be, see, this is why he's a 5th round pick. Yeah. But I also think from that perspective, I can understand why he did what he did because, listen, like we feel obligated to ask Shedeur Sanders questions. He's a polarizing person. He's a polarizing player. We can all admit he's different than most 5th round picks and 3rd string quarterbacks. So I think it's totally fine that we ask him questions. I think it's totally fine that he gives answers that he feels truthful about. Like I had no issue with him saying last week that, he thought he could play better than some of the quarterbacks in this league. I think that's what you'd want most young quarterbacks to say. But I think this was kind of his way of saying, all right, you think I'm just talking too much, so I'm just not going to say anything. And it was pretty wild to be a part of overall, though.
Stay up to date all year on the Cleveland Browns by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Browns on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Florida Panthers are looking for the three-peat. The Florida Panthers are trying to three-peat, but not if the Lightning have anything to say about it. Our Locked On NHL host got together to take a look at the Atlantic Division contenders, debating whether or not the Lightning have what it takes to finally top their in-state rivals.
Yeah, lots of optimism, especially with Bill Zito's ability to bring the majority of the guys back, re-signing Brad Marchand, Aaron Ekblad, and Sam Bennett, especially those three of the free agents for the Florida Panthers who were pending after their second consecutive Stanley Cup championship. And the fact is, when you win and you have the rising cap like they did this offseason compared to what was since 2020 with COVID, it gave the Florida Panthers an opportunity to pounce and bring everybody back together. And, you know, maybe this doesn't happen if they don't win the Stanley Cup final as convincingly as they did, setting a record for most time led in a single Stanley Cup final. But this season coming up, it doesn't mean that there won't be challenges, because Matthew Tkachuk is expected to miss time until at least December at the very earliest. Tomáš Nosek is going to be missing a significant amount of time. So the Panthers will have to find a way to navigate through the schedule early on in the season. But thankfully for them, it's a very home-heavy start to the schedule. And I've discussed this many times on the show. Coming up after January, their longest homestand is no more than 3 games after January. So we'll see how the Panthers really truly navigate things with bringing everybody back together.
It's going to be really tough for them to get out of that sunny weather when they're not there. So I feel pity for them.
Yeah. Just hope Florida stays a tax-free state. And
yeah.
Everybody's good.
I don't see that changing anytime soon, much to the annoyance of every other team that's not in tax-free states, specifically some certain Canadian teams that don't have that advantage at all whatsoever. Now, as far as the Ottawa Senators go, this is an optimistic franchise after missing the playoffs for 7 straight years, something that neither the three of you guys have had to endure with your teams in a long time, those long playoff droughts. The Ottawa Senators were able to punch back up against the Leafs, down 3-0. Sure, they don't make the comeback full, but they made it at least an interesting series. And it was that much needed experience for pretty much their entire team, who Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Jake Sanderson, Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto, Thomas Chabot. I could go on and on and on about all these guys that had 0 games of NHL Stanley Cup playoff experience. Now you get 6 games under your belt. You understand more what you need, what it takes to at least be competitive in a round 1. So there's a lot of optimism in the nation's capital, and Brady Tkachuk, the leader, set the standard, being like, look, we're not going to be just content and happy to just be in the playoffs. We want to start doing some damage. And he's got a front row seat watching his big brother, Matthew Tkachuk, have lots of playoff success. So he's going to want a taste of that himself. And hopefully one day he can be inviting Matthew to a Stanley Cup party rather than attending one on his own. But to get to the playoffs, guys, you got to have a good regular season, and our friends over at FanDuel have set the over-unders for points for all of our teams. We're pulling it up here on YouTube. For the Florida Panthers, their points are set at 105.5 over-under. The Lightning, 102.5, Leafs 99.5, and the Sens at 95.5. Let's start with you, Armando, because your team is the highest here at 105.5. Now, sure, the Florida Panthers, they go back to the Stanley Cup final and win a Stanley Cup yet again, but they weren't the division leaders, and you would have hit the under considerably on that number if that was what it was last season with 98 points. How are you feeling about hitting more than 105 points this regular season?
I would go with the under for the Panthers because, I mean, yeah, the Panthers were the first team to win the Stanley Cup, not having home ice advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs since the 2012 Los Angeles Kings. But the fact is that a lot of guys are going to be sidelined, and, you know, Alexander Barkov never plays an 82-game season neither, so that's bound to happen for the Panthers as well. Guys are going to be stepping up into the lineup. Anton Lundell to top line center, and you never know how, and the fact is that the Panthers have a new backup goaltender. You don't know how they're going to be looking behind the Danil Tarasov starts for the Panthers neither, and there's also a new third pair with Jeff Petrie in the mix. So it's also going to be I'm interested to see how the beginning of the season is going to be for the Panthers. They're there, and it might let them to not winning the division. So it's funny because I had a show with Kevin Rogers of Locked On Bets, and he was projecting that the Tampa Bay Lightning have the best chance possibly to win the division, and I would go for the under for the Panthers there.
And finally, Oklahoma City Thunder forward Jalen Williams will be the last player in the NBA to wear number 6. Yes, the NBA retired Bill Russell's iconic number 6 back in 2022 after Russell's passing, but everyone who was already wearing the number got grandfathered in. DeAndre Jordan had been the only other remaining player still eligible to be grandfathered in to keep wearing number 6. And now DeAndre Jordan has left the Denver Nuggets. That means Jalen Williams is the last number 6 in the NBA and will be the last player to wear 6 in the NBA. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, are the Rams about to rout an injured 49ers squad? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.